Hi, it's Daniella Rabbani, the host of the Mom Curious podcast, and I am so excited to get into this conversation today with Becca McCarthy, the co-founder of Evolve. You have democratized taking GLP-1 in a way that is so exciting. It's an oral supplement that delivers this incredible technology that has really changed my health and wellness and my life.
Wow.
And I'm really excited. I've been wanting to get into this conversation with someone, but I didn't know exactly who, because here's the thing about you. You are a health and wellness professional. You've finally made this technology accessible to women in a way that's affordable, that's available, that's not physically uncomfortable. They can titrate their own dosage as they need today or tomorrow, not a whole week from now. We'll get into the nitty gritty of that. But I just want to say that I haven't been able to really get into this conversation with anyone else because I always want to talk from the lived experience of women. You actually also take GLP-1.
Yeah.
So that's an important factor. I would love to know how you even got into this field and give me like the backstory, if you will.
Yeah, happy to. And you're not alone. Everybody wants to have this conversation, but it's been so hard because in the GLP-1 landscape, there's supplements on one end of the spectrum and there's pharmaceuticals on the other, and both are deeply stigmatized in various ways.
Yeah.
You know, supplements for their lack of efficacy and perceived placebo effect, and pharmaceuticals for their stigma associated with being a cop-out or a lack of willpower, etc. So it's hard, and we sit right in that middle ground. So hopefully with more of these conversations, we can start to break through that stigma, but also embrace the fact that there is stigma and just deliver an effective solution that works for people, which is the goal.
Yeah. There's a stigma on so many different levels. Like there's the, you know, if you just try harder, you'll lose weight, which I tried harder, but I have PCOS and at some point weight is a health issue. And then there's also like, you know, the shame associated with wanting to look better, feel better, etc. Even I, who professionally works on dispelling shame and creating conversation, it took me a year to find you, you know, but I also wanted to make sure that it was available to people, because the thing is, like, not everyone can get a prescription for a GLP-1. Not everyone can afford it. They're very expensive. Not everyone is comfortable taking an injection. And somehow you've created a formula where we don't need any of those three things. So
Right. Well, and that's kind of where this company began, is in that space of GLP-1 as a drug category, which it's not. It's a natural hormone that exists in our body, and we've kind of reframed it to mean something that it's not. GLP-1 is a natural hormone and a biological pathway in our own bodies. We own it. So when we talk about the category of GLP-1s, yes, historically, GLP-1s has come to mean a category of pharmaceutical, but now it can include not only your natural native GLP-1, but also a category of supplements. And, you know, we just happen to be the first. But yeah, I mean, there's right when GLP-1 pharmaceutical options entered the fitness and wellness scene, there was a lot of resistance. And people who made their entire careers on diet and exercise came for it. And that was a challenge, because the lack of willingness to embrace a new solution also added to the stigma, because you had people who were saying, listen, I've been trying for 20 years and diet and exercise just isn't working for me. And for some reason, I hit this wall at 35, 40, 45, 50, and I've gained 10 pounds and I can't figure it out. And for women, that can be hormonal. And we don't have adequate health care around perimenopause, menopause, postnatal to help us solution around that. So we're left to fend for ourselves. And what we had 2-3 years ago was otherwise healthy people realizing that this was an effective weight loss tool and injecting themselves with a diabetes medication or an obesity medication to achieve those outcomes. And we just thought, my co-founders and I, there has to be a better way. There has to be a solution that's preventative health oriented and natural that can solve for this need in the market for effective weight loss.
Was that need personal though?
Absolutely.
Okay, because you have 3 kids, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I have 3 kids. Yeah. I mean, we all go through different phases of life that change our body. And I'm a serial entrepreneur, multi-time founder. So for me, every time I go through the experience of starting a company, I put my health second in a lot of ways. So
you and the rest of us.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have periods of time in your life, whether it's 6 months or a year, or you have a pregnancy and you're postnatal, and you have periods of time in your life where you just can't prioritize fitness and wellness to the extent that you want to.
Or like optimal.
Right.
Fitness and wellness. I mean, we have to take care of ourselves. It really is important. But feeling your best isn't always possible postpartum or in the middle of a launch.
It's so hard.
It is.
It's so hard. And in that phase of perimenopause, which is a topic that's personal to me and important.
Is that what you're experiencing now?
Yeah, that was my experience when I first started experimenting with GLP-1. Is I entered the phase of perimenopause without knowing what was going on. And so all these changes happen in your body, and for everyone it's slightly different. But for me, the experience of starting that phase of life was extremely traumatic.
Wow.
It was so hard. Some of the symptoms that I experienced were really dysregulated periods, and that created total chaos in my life. I've never really been someone who had severe PMS or menstrual cramps, and the amount of pain in my abdomen and in my back were just crippling. Wow. No amount of ibuprofen was helping with that. And then you have other weird symptoms that as women sometimes we kind of dismiss as just being stressed or having not enough sleep, but some of the cognitive issues, right? Like brain fog. And I was just about to say something and I don't remember what I was about to say. And that's happening a lot.
Yeah.
And it never was my personality. So what is that? And when you piece it all together, you realize that your hormones are imbalanced. I had to beg my primary care doctor to get a hormone panel.
Yeah.
It just wasn't something that someone said to me like, oh, you know what, you're experiencing these really difficult symptoms. Let's get you figured out. And they do that well in the functional health space and functional medicine space, but not so much in primary care.
I have a functional medicine doctor, and they do it okay. There's only so much a doctor can do when you see them 3-4 times a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much self-advocacy that has to happen also, and that's not everyone's personality. A lot of people are inclined to just passively say, my doctor knows best. I didn't go to school for 12 years to study my own body. I don't know. And that's also something we need to explore in our education system, right? Is how do we create more self-empowerment for our own biology as we go through life? But yeah, you don't have the knowledge or education, so sometimes you default to, I'll trust this doctor or that doctor. But ultimately, when I did get my hormone panel results back, yes, I was severely imbalanced, and that resolved with the most minimal intervention. I just went on an appropriate HRT, and it was resolved instantly.
Wow.
And just the fact that was available, and that was something that I had to fight for months, when it could have just been, here, we're going to solve this, we're going to fix this for you.
Or I wish people would sit women in their 40s or late 30s down and be like, this is what menopause and perimenopause looks like. Here are your options. These are the ways you should speak to your doctor. In fact, why don't we do that here? We'll do that here. Okay, guys, that's what we should do. Yep. Okay. I'll do that next season. But we'll focus here today on GLP-1. But I do think that we need that education.
Yeah. And our doctors need that education too. I mean, to some extent, it's not as much their fault because they came up in an environment where it wasn't a focus and women's health wasn't being studied and prioritized. So they don't often know.
Well, my functional medicine doctor was noticing that my sugar was just never regulated. Like my mood was impacted. I was really struggling with weight gain and brain fog. I'm not in perimenopause, but because he's a functional medicine doctor, he would give me berberine and a whole host of, I spend so much money on supplements. And then at some point he was just like, or I had mentioned, what do we think about a prescription GLP-1? And he said, I think it's a great idea.
Wow.
Once I got to a gynecologist, and really explored how PCOS was showing up in my life, which I've had for so long, but it shows up differently when you get older, and I wanted to make sure that I'm setting myself up properly for perimenopause. Again, I advocate for myself quite vocally. I literally have a mic in front of my face all the time. But by the time I had been on that GLP-1 for about a year, my blood work was really good.
I know.
Like really nice.
It's just the crazy thing about GLP-1 is that in addition to obviously having those weight loss benefits, when you regulate your blood sugar and control your insulin sensitivity, there's so many downstream effects that we're only now beginning to understand.
Right.
It's anti-inflammatory. It has impact on autoimmune symptoms and pain. There's potential cognitive benefits like obviously brain fog, but also they're beginning to explore neurological benefits like reduction in brain plaque and preventative measures for things like Alzheimer's. There is obviously impact on sleep and stress, and all of that is related to insulin and blood sugar.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, our bodies are super interconnected. And for me also, similarly, I had that same experience a couple of years ago when I was experiencing and going through those perimenopausal symptoms. I said, well, what if I add GLP-1? And tried it. And that was exactly it for me. It was that really unique cocktail of HRT and GLP-1 that worked in tandem to help me not only tackle those symptoms, but also lose those extra 5 pounds that were hanging on or had been accumulated over the last few years. That for me, as an athlete, as a high performance person, I pay attention to what changes are happening in my body. And that was also something that I struggled with.
Wait, can I just pause and ask, are you a rower?
Yeah.
What kind of athlete are you? Were you a professional rower?
No, but I was lucky enough to work with some professionals. But yes, I was a rower, a collegiate rower, and then I went on to coach rowing for a number of years at every level. I coached at the master's level, which is 50 and 60 years old, and then also I coached the junior national team.
That's so fun. So 5 pounds for you is like 20 pounds for me. No, it's like
it's
but
different for everybody.
You feel it. You feel it, right? Because you're so connected to your body. But I'm shocked that your doctor would have given you a prescription for those 5 pounds. I'm glad he did, because you would have never co-founded Evolve if you didn't experience GLP-1.
That's true.
But that barrier to entry, I think, for most people is pretty big. I actually know there are people in my family who have tried very hard to get on GLP-1, and their doctors are like, you are a healthy person. Right. Like those 20 pounds, like just go to the gym or just whatever it is. Right. But Evolve is something that you don't need a prescription for.
That's right. Yeah, that was the idea behind Evolve, was that we wanted to create something that gave people access. That's the biggest thing that it's our whole mission as a company, is to create access and affordability to these biotech-driven solutions and science-led solutions that actually work for people. So
can we talk about the science real quick?
Yeah.
You mentioned that GLP-1 is actually inside our bodies. It's not a thing we take. It's actually something that we activate within ourselves.
Yeah, so GLP-1, like other hormones in our body, like estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, it exists in our body, and it is elicited when we eat food. So when you eat, your body produces the GLP-1 hormone. That hormone meets its receptors, and those receptors signal to various organs in your body, your pancreas, your stomach, your brain, your liver, and tell them what to do because you've now consumed food and you're full. And what foods do is produce that type of response for a short time. So for a period of 3 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on the food. And certain foods can produce a more prolonged effect, right? So
protein.
When you eat high fiber foods, high protein foods, you notice that you feel fuller for longer, and that is your GLP-1 response at work.
Wow.
In addition to other things.
Wow.
And so what we've created is a solution that naturally activates that same pathway of GLP-1 receptor activation and body awareness, but for a period of about 24 hours. So it creates a calmness around food noise.
What is food noise?
Food noise.
Not that I don't know. I do know.
Right.
Just
Everyone
in case
knows.
you're wondering.
Right. It's such an intuitive phrase. And now the science community is actually starting to take ownership of it as well and measure it and create a data point around it, which is interesting and wonderful.
I only say that because I'm only joking because I know because I experience food noise quite loudly.
Yes.
I realize now that it had a lot to do with my blood sugar fluctuations.
Yeah.
But it also was a pattern in my body and in my brain and in my life, and it was disrupted by this technology. But maybe we should, for those who don't necessarily experience it as loudly as maybe I do, maybe we should define what food noise is.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of intuitively knows what it is. If you consume food in America, then you have experience with ultra processed foods as a primary aspect of your diet, and therefore are compelled to eat more high sugar, high fat foods that keep you eating and encourage you to snack and have those cravings. And they reprogram our biology.
No.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what we need to do is use this as a tool to reset that relationship with food. Food noise essentially is that constant chatter in your mind that is compelling you to snack. It's that noise in your head or that voice in your head that's like, I just ate, how much time is going to pass until I eat next, and what will my next snack look like, and do I need a snack to get through this next thing that I have going on? And all of that noise and conversation that happens in your head, when you're on Evolve GLP-1, it totally dissipates. Wow. And it leaves you all this space to think about what you actually have to do and about other things. It doesn't mean you're not hungry. It doesn't mean that you don't eat. It just resets your biology in a way that gives you the opportunity to have a choice.
Right.
So it makes you feel in control of your day. It makes you feel like if you'd like to eat a meal now, or if you'd like to wait an hour to have a meal, you can do that. It also is this really interesting reset around choices that you make in food. So I've noticed anecdotally that when I take Evolve GLP-1, I'm more inclined to eat healthier foods. And we do actually get a lot of customers that say that to us, that because you're approaching the fridge or approaching the pantry or approaching a meal with less panic
and more
agency
yeah.
and more intention,
yeah.
that you're more motivated to make healthy choices. Mm-hmm. And you're not driven by cravings. So it is a cycle of then healthy eating, and that perpetuates itself.
And you mentioned better sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned brain fog. I mean, brain fog lifting. But like the food noise is such a huge part of brain fog. I mean, if there's so much chatter in your brain about just getting through the day, what am I going to eat and how am I going to feel and will it be enough, etc. is this enough? Can I get more? Should I not get more? Especially with diet culture. So like we're up against a lot of programming. By the time we get to our 40s, late 30s, women are up against so much diet culture, so much, patterning that we've already been navigating for decades. We're up against our own biology. It can feel like we're swimming upstream. Plus, and probably most importantly, you mentioned our American diet that's so ultra processed. That creates a lot of brain fog. We know so much about nutrition, and sometimes we can't act on it. Right. But what I like about this Evolve GLP-1 is that you can act on the things that you know are right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not driven by compulsion.
Right.
I'm driven by, okay, I'm hungry, and vegetables and protein and a nice carb are like a good meal. I know it's a good meal intellectually. I also know that it'll fill me up physically.
Right.
It's just normalcy. So that, of course, that's going to help you with your brain fog, your sleep,
right,
your skin. Eat a vegetable,
right.
Eat a vegetable.
Right. It's harder than we think. There's a lot of food insecurity in this country, and it's more expensive to buy vegetables sometimes than it is to buy a bag of chips.
Right.
So it's hard for people. And, I just want people to feel like it's not their fault, and that there is this tool that exists, and how lovely to have a tool in your toolbox that helps you approach your plate differently and potentially jumpstart a better life for yourself and a better cycle of nutrition. It's just like any other tool that we have in our longevity toolbox. And the best thing about having it as a supplement is, like you said, you can titrate that. You can also personalize it. Because for so many people, 2 tablets a day works really great. But for a lot of people, 1 is also enough. And for a lot of people, 3 is better. And for me personally, there's some days where I definitely want 3 and I definitely want 1. And the ability to have that choice every day, similar to caffeine or a probiotic or other things we make choices around and are able to titrate up and down depending on how we're feeling, that's so powerful to have from a GLP-1 receptor activator.
Well, just as like by way of contrast, the way that I would have my GLP-1 is weekly, right? So before Evolve, I would take Ozempic weekly, and it's an injection that basically would make me really nauseous in the beginning of the week, and then taper off until about, I would take it every 10 days, and then at some point just less than that. But that initial rush of nausea doesn't have to exist.
Right.
Or if it does, if you have that one day where you take too many supplements of Evolve, you have the choice within 24 hours to say, no, I'm going to try less. Yeah. It's actually, you're on this ride with an injection that lasted me, like I'm little, so it lasted me 10 full days.
Wow. So
I really love that it's a 24-hour cycle with these supplements. What is in them? Like, here's the other reason why I never got into this conversation, by the way, Becca. I didn't even know what I was taking. Yeah. So I couldn't be on mic and be like, guys, this is really helping my life. Maybe consider it, because I don't even know what's going on. Like, what is in these things?
Right, yeah. So typically...
I'm so glad you're here. That's what I'm saying.
I love that. So typically, a supplement, historically before Evolve, a supplement that has GLP-1 on the label is doing what we talked about earlier. It is including an ingredient like berberine or another plant, or green tea extract or a mango extract or a plant that we know can elicit a slightly longer GLP-1 response in your body and extend that from about 3 minutes to 4 or 5, 10 minutes, whatever. And so that, in their minds, gave them permission to say it's a GLP-1. And that created a lot of confusion in the GLP-1 space, especially in supplements. What we've designed is truly a novel peptide. So we took everything we know about peptide engineering, and we designed a novel peptide that is all natural. It only contains canonical amino acids, unlike the pharmaceutical GLP-1s, which have some synthetic material in them. And then we wrapped that in our own oral delivery platform that gives that peptide bioavailability. So it survives the stomach environment, and it actually meets the GLP-1 and GIP receptors where they are without any synthetic intervention. So we can get into kind of the details and mechanics around that.
I want to.
Okay, great.
I think it's worth it, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And like, if it goes over someone's head, it goes over someone's head, and that's totally fine. Like, there is a fast forward button for a reason, but don't or do whatever, do you? But I think it's important to know what we're putting in our bodies.
Yeah.
Says the woman who for one whole year didn't know what I was putting in my body. I was just happy to be healthy.
Right.
But it's important, you know.
Right. Yeah. So that is the only ingredient in our product. It is our novel peptide. What we've done is we've created our own novel strain of yeast that is dried, and when fermented and dried, is able to release our peptide. So that's the only ingredient in our product. You're basically consuming our novel peptide as a dietary supplement. There are no other ingredients or fillers in our product. But essentially how we're different from a lot of the pharmaceutical alternatives is that in order to achieve that bioavailability in the gut, in your small intestine, the pharmaceutical GLP-1s include something called a permeation enhancer that effectively liquidizes the membrane that exists between the peptide that they've designed and the receptor in order to give it access. What that does in their oral format is it means you have to take it on an empty stomach, because if you have a hole in your gut and you're letting that peptide through, or that active ingredient, you're also potentially letting in other toxins that exist in your gut and opportunistic pathogens and lots of other things that you don't want in there.
I'm so glad you clarified that.
So, these oral formats are still designed for people with diabetes and obesity for whom the alternative to taking this is potentially a heart event, or for someone who is comfortable taking it on an empty stomach and dealing with the side effects that result from creating a cut in your gut. And the other thing that makes us really different is the fact that we are natural. So there are all kinds of things that we consume daily that are synthetic, and we do that knowingly, and GLP-1 pharmaceuticals is one of them. And again, for a lot of people, that is a lovely intervention and a really smart solution for their health and long-term health. And what we've done is given them a natural alternative. So for people who aren't comfortable having synthetic material in their body,
or don't need it
or
as
don't
badly,
need it,
right? There's always a spectrum of need.
Yes, exactly. And that's really personal, right? And that's no one else's business. What your need is to lose 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 pounds.
Or the why of it.
The why of it, right. Right.
It's so personal.
It's so personal. It's really intimate. It's really not for society to decide, or even your physician at times. So being able to have access to that kind of a solution, whether as a pharmaceutical or as a natural supplement, is really wonderful. And this is an amazing time to be living in. But if what you want is to pursue a more natural alternative, or if you've always been GLP-1 curious and you want that entry into experimentation, then you probably want to do it in a way that feels natural to your body and and therefore going to result in less side effects, because it's not something that your body is identifying as a foreign object.
Oh, that's so interesting. I have to ask this as a person who in my 20s would take diet pills and over exercise. I've always been very open about my history with disordered eating and binging and the diet culture that really just wrecked my brain. What's the difference between this and a diet pill?
Yeah. First, that makes me so sad, because
I'm not the only one. I'm just loud enough to.
No, I know, but so many people deal with that, and having 3 daughters and having been through some degree of that myself, and having dealt with it as an athlete is so hard.
So pervasive.
Yeah.
So pervasive. I mean,
yeah.
Those of us who grew up in the 90s, I mean, our supermodels were rail thin. Bless them. That was either their genetic makeup or something else, but and it wasn't necessarily their fault, I don't think, but we were up against a lot of imagery of what a woman should look like, and those women didn't look like me.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. It was crazy in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest difference between evolved GLP-1 and a diet pill is that GLP-1 pathway support is aimed at really solving and resolving that disordered relationship with food.
I experienced that. I asked it, but I also knew the answer because I experienced it. Like, I know that the diet pills would give me energy by way of caffeine or I don't know, whatever else that was in, I wasn't really checking, but at the time.
Yeah.
But a GLP-1 doesn't do that.
Right.
It's just not the same burst of energy and then a crash.
Right.
I really appreciate that it's all natural. The thing is about natural supplements is that we can also just pump supplements full of caffeine, and this is not that either.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we should all challenge our supplement brands in that way. If you're taking a supplement that has GLP-1 on the label, or any supplement, we should all take a look at that label and check to what extent caffeine is.
So don't do what I have been doing for literally up until today.
Exactly.
Literally waiting for you to be in the seat for me to be like, so what was I taking all that time?
We're all guilty of it. And
well, I think we're all guilty of it because we you mention it, and I think it's such a great point. It's like we eat a lot of crap because we're served a lot of crap because of a host of reasons, and it changes our biology, and it changes our hunger cues, and it changes and the expectations. The culture that we live in is you have 3 daughters. I have a daughter. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we're navigating it. I think women like you who are founders and mothers and, you tested the GLP-1 on yourself and you're like, oh, okay, I'm a leader in this field. Let me democratize it. You're doing a lot for women.
Yeah.
And still it's an enormous thing to be the giver of life, the sustainer of life, and to just be a human at the same time. So, anyway, I digress, but I do think that we have been really navigating this issue of, our changing bodies for such a long time. And this is a great tool, as you say.
Yeah. And we do have a huge responsibility to our young women to shift and evolve the way that we're educating them about their health and their biology and their food and their nutrition.
Get it? Evolve.
Yeah. Did you like what I did there?
I did. I just got it. I liked it.
Yeah, that's on us. And luckily, there's a whole generation of Gen Z that is really excited about that. And their kids are going to have even more empowerment around this topic, especially females, of demanding and an answer when something feels off, and feeling self-empowered and self-advocating enough to say, there's a solution that exists and I want to try it, and I need a doctor's support to help me navigate that. And functional medicine is going to play a big role in that, I think, in the next 10 years.
How do you mean?
I think people, as they experiment with direct-to-consumer solutions like Evolve, are going to put pressure on the medical community to be educated enough to come back to them and have a dialogue with them about what they're trying and what their supplement stack. And the current blood testing protocol and the whole process of waiting for an appointment, getting an appointment, waiting for an appointment at Quest, getting the appointment at Quest, going to Quest, getting your blood work back, waiting to hear if your doctor read the blood work panel, getting your appointment with your doctor to review that. Right, the whole thing is.
By the way, it takes so long. You get your blood taken, and then a month later, you're talking about it. You're like, you're talking about my blood sugar on this one day, and now it's a month later, and my whole life has changed. And
it's crazy.
What?
It's crazy. And God forbid you get something back that really needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
And we've all had that scare, right? Now we're in that age where we're getting mammograms and colonoscopies and all this stuff.
No, shit's getting real.
And shit's getting scary.
Yeah.
And so, the time that has to pass for the modern healthcare to catch up is just, it's too long, and we're not putting up with it any longer.
The craziest thing is that, like, I go to the best doctors, right? These are the doctors that don't take insurance. These are the Park Avenue doctors. They're literally both on Park Avenue. My gynecologist, my functional medicine doctor. I love them. Very smart people once you get them in the room.
Yeah.
What is going on that it's so hard to actually get them in the room?
Yeah.
I could go on and on and on about this. But the fact that we have products available to us and conversations happening in a way, I feel like we're at least part of the solution.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Agreed. I mean, same. I could screenshot the back and forth in the health portal with my doctor of, when can I get this appointment? What do you think about this? And the time that passes, it's so hard to get them in the room. But I
have a question about Evolve specifically, though. When it comes to GLP-1, like historically, you would have to go to a doctor, right? They would have to give you a prescription. Sometimes the Ozempic wasn't good, so they gave you like tirzepatide. They gave you the whatever. They gave you a different one, but you would have to go back to your doctor.
Right.
I know that there are other GLP-1 direct-to-consumer brands where it's still an injection. It's still once a week. You do have to go to their doctor. Mm-hmm. What kind of doctor are they? Like, I've met with them, actually. You meet with them for like 3 minutes, and they're like, great. Because I don't know. Because I don't know. And that's why you're here. Thank you so much. How come you don't have to go through a doctor with Evolve?
Well, the doctors that you're talking about are still doctors. They're compound pharmacies. So compound pharmacies exist for the ability to get access to pharmaceutical solutions faster and in a more boutique way.
Okay.
And you're correct. I mean, those conversations with their doctor are abbreviated.
You really nailed the English language. Yep, you did that.
To say
literally
politically.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Guys, I've tried it all, so you don't have to.
Yeah. So the reason that you don't need a prescription for Evolve is because we designed it and engineered it as a natural supplement. So because it's all natural, because it has a 24-hour half-life and it only exists in the body for a day, it doesn't fit the need for a pharmaceutical drug. It doesn't fit that description or that category. It fits squarely in the category of dietary supplement. And that has made people's heads explode for the last 2 years that we've been bringing it to market.
Okay.
But that is the truth. And it's a space that we just continue to navigate and continue to educate in. But it's hard because, like I said, to be the only and first dietary supplement that is actually a GLP-1 dual agonist is to not only confuse consumers who have been thinking about GLP-1 as a pharmaceutical only, but it also fully disrupts the supplement industry, saying that GLP-1 is something that a supplement can produce. So, we go to great lengths to produce lots of education and materials on our website from our doctors and our advisors about our product, our peptide, why it's effective, about our biology. There's just not enough education that exists about it, but
That's why you're here.
That's all. Yeah, that's all we can do is just keep fighting the fight.
And that's literally why you're in that seat right now, is to like educate. Is there anything that I'm missing in terms of the education? Is there anything else I should be asking about?
I think education is tricky because people really want information, but they also really just want to trust a company and a brand that we're doing the right thing. And they really just want it to work. So it's this balance that we have to strike with our consumers of making sure they have enough education to be able to trust us, and then building and sustaining that trust and taking care of it and only doing right by them in order to give them the peace of mind that they can mindlessly engage with our products without fear. And that's been the biggest challenge because people want that end outcome. They don't want to be in the cycle of education. That's a lot of cognitive overhead and a lot of work.
Well, I am a smart lady. And how many times did I tell you I was taking this thing and I didn't know what I was taking? I was just happy it was working.
Right.
By the way, in my 20s, I meant that
right.
with the diet pills, even though it wasn't healthy, I wouldn't recommend it. But the cognitive overload of education and what am I supposed to do, and this isn't working, and the relief of, well, that did the trick.
Right.
Is real.
Right.
And I'm a smart lady, you know, who cares?
And I think we're all hopeful that we can get to a new normal. Like we can use tools to achieve an amount of weight loss or blood sugar regulation, or we can continue to microdose at our own personalized dosing and pace. And that can be how we live. We can wake up every day feeling awesome and feeling like we're going to crush our day and live our best life and show up as the best parent and the best partner. And that's the goal for most people. So to be able to use Evolve to get there and then potentially, come off it and not have a dependent relationship on something is, I think, where, a lot of people's minds are going. And that is what Evolve offers that no one else does, is like you can have this great tool that you can have a lifelong relationship with as any other supplement, as an iron supplementation, as magnesium supplementation. And you can play with, in different phases of life and different times of the year and different days of the week, how you want to relate to that and how you want to use it as a tool. And then find that healthy homeostasis that you can just live in and exist in and, perpetually grow in.
So speaking of trust, I have built this podcast all around like the lived experience of women, because I do have a sort of, and I'm working through it, but a sort of allergy to like the selling to women and girls, because we're so vulnerable to the dopamine hit, to the solution, to this and that. But the reason why I was so excited to talk to you is because you have the lived experience of trying this product, of titrating as you wish. And I just thought I'd give you the literal, actual mic. Thank you, Hoff Studios, for the beautiful mic. I love you so much. Just to tell us about you. Like, how has it helped you, Becca, the person, the mom, the entrepreneur, the wife? Like, how are you on GLP-1, given your background in as being an athlete and all the things you want to accomplish in your life through perimenopause and beyond,
Yeah, it's helped in so many ways, honestly. And I have spent a lot of time doing voice notes and documenting how I'm feeling, because I like to reflect on what that experience has been, because it varies day to day.
Wait, can you tell me about that practice real quick?
Sure. That's literally what it is. When I'm feeling when I'm feeling better because of my GLP-1, or I'm noticing that, I'm getting through my afternoon and I don't have that 3:00 coffee craving that I used to have, or I feel more present and more aware and better at my job because today is a great day, then I make it a practice to actually, I remove myself from my office and I go in a different room and I just spend 30 seconds to a minute just saying how I feel in a voice note. And sometimes that for me turns into something that I can reflect on and write about later. And sometimes it's just the practice of getting it out.
I love
that. Yeah, it just is a nice little reset and reflection.
Wait, how did you even come up with this beautiful reset and reflection?
Honestly, I don't even know.
I love it. I love it so much. Okay, back to you. Tell me more.
Because, GLP-1 it's so personal and it's so effective. And so when you have something that you tried for so long, if you have 10 pounds that you want to lose, and you also want all the other wonderful microdosing benefits of GLP-1, but and maybe you want help with support for PCOS or an autoimmune issue or other issue. There's all that's great, but at the end of the day, sometimes you just want to look better naked and you just want those last few pounds to just come off.
Great.
And so when something does that for you and it works and you're like, oh my God, it worked, you become really advocating around it and really kind of self-celebrating.
So this is you.
So that was me. So yeah, I mean, for me, my journey with GLP-1 started with my perimenopause journey and parallel past that, and also was part of my inflection point as being, an entrepreneur and an operator in the fitness industry for so long.
What did
and
you
then I operated and launched fitness businesses for the last 20 years or so.
Wow.
And in doing that, seeing how the industry was reacting to GLP-1 and with such strange responses and stances around GLP-1 being bad, right? Right away, that was confusing to me. So taking all of that in, and then obviously trying GLP-1 and seeing that, for me in perimenopause, I had a harder time losing weight. I had the same exercise routine. I work out every day. It's for mental health, 1,000%. I'm somebody who has to work out to move blood around in my body and brain and elicit whatever dopamine hormones result from that, that make me the best version of myself. I have to. And I haven't changed anything about my diet or supplementation or exercise routine. And then I encountered, this weight gain. And that's really hard for somebody for all of us, it's hard for anyone to gain 5 pounds and just be like, I don't feel right. I feel kind of bloated and I just feel like my clothes don't really fit anymore. And that's a hard thing. Mm-hmm. And it's also really personal and private. And it's oftentimes something we don't talk about, even with our family and friends. We don't want to say, I am looking for support to lose 5 or 10 pounds. There's a stigma, and even if you get GLP-1 support, oftentimes you see people wanting to hide that or wanting their community or their friends to think that they just went to a few extra Pilates classes and ate a little bit better.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of customers that prefer not to be brand advocates of our brand, even though we've changed their lives, because they don't want people to know how they got there. So we're happy to be their secret. But so for me, going through that journey and experiencing that efficacy was massive. And the biggest impact beyond the weight loss for me was that ability to sustain my high performance throughout the whole day.
Yeah.
I am somebody who always hit that 3 o'clock wall. In fact, I used to block my calendar from 3 to 5 because I just knew for the last 10 years, I knew that I'm not at my best during that time. And if I have a press appearance or an investor meeting or a one-on-one with one of my employees, I know I'm not going to show up as my best self. And that's not an efficient way to live. And GLP-1 changed that for me.
No.
1,000%. I just removed the blocks from my calendar.
What?
Yeah. It's
That's
wild.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is I travel a lot. So my meals are sometimes off. A lot of times they're off. And, if I'm on a 6-hour flight, I don't want to have to pack a bag full of snacks and then like eat salty and, processed snacks and then show up and be really hungry and have to grab a meal before I go to my next meeting. And sometimes you just want that to be controlled and muted and to get through the day. However you have to. And so GLP-1 also solves that for me. So when I take Evolve, when I have a heavy travel day, I'll take extra and I'll even take 3 or 4 in the morning. And that'll help me get through my day without any food distraction. I'm still really intentional about my meals because I know that I need protein to survive. I know that I really want to have calories in my system to be able to function and thrive. But it is nice to be able to choose.
They also say that, anecdotally, I've heard this, that eating while you're flying is actually not a great idea anyway, because
really?
Yeah, you're like in this high altitude and your body's like metabolizing a lot all at once. So
interesting.
So anyway, I love knowing that like it has actually impacted your life specifically, and that's probably why you're sitting here and on your daughter's birthday while your puppy is getting neutered.
It's a big day for our household.
It's a big day. I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me, for educating all of us, and for co-founding this really important supplement. I'm grateful for the technology and for the time, especially on such a big day. Where can we find you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to meet you and chat with you and talk about this, and to hopefully continue to impact the lives of women, men, and especially moms. And you can get us at evolvelife.com.
Great. And where can we find you, just in case we want to get to know you better?
On the gram.
Yeah? At Becca McCarthy?
Yep.
Okay, great. And is Evolve on the gram?
Yes, yeah, at Evolve Life.
Okay, great. So check us out. I'm at Mom Curious and at Daniella Rabbani. We all want to keep this conversation going because we just want to take all those parts of womanhood and motherhood that are in the shadows and bring them to light with you. Thank you so much, Becca McCarthy of Evolve. See you guys next week.